It's easy to think the world's next great tech companies will come from Silicon Valley, New York, or Toronto. But innovators from around the world beg to differ, and I'm out to discover who they are and where they're from. From Addis to Jakarta, from Dhaka to Bogota, I'm Dan Herman, and this is their world, our future. I'm pretty sure all of us took a history lesson at some point that covered the Mongol Empire and their rather aggressive expansion across Europe and Asia back in the 13th century. But seriously, what else do you know about Mongolia? Probably not much, and it's not your fault. It's rarely, if ever, in the news, and your search engine results are largely about yurts, horse racing, and mining. Talk about a country needing a brand refresh. Luckily for Mongolia, the storyline today is pretty compelling. A small country with great engineers and tech companies looking to access global markets. And one of them is Ulaanbaatar-based TomYo edtech, a fast-growing startup co-founded by Chief Operating Officer Eja Batbold. Eja Batbold, you're the co-founder and chief operating officer of TomYo, an edtech company based in Mongolia. Tell us, what is TomYo? Why is it special?
Mm-hmm. TomYo is my passion project that I started doing like a year and a half ago when I returned back home. I think it really comes from an experience, after being studying abroad and working abroad in the US and in Europe and various locations, like coming back to Mongolia, I always get same questions from my cousins and like everyone in the street, how the hell did you go and study abroad? Like, how do I do the same thing that you did, And a lot of these questions are like still very simple, like just learn a good English, get a good score, and you might be able to get a scholarship and go abroad. So that's been always my same kind of like answer, repeating myself over and over again. And the three of us, all of our co-founders had same issues. So we wanted to kind of just, let's just create like an application, digital solution to all of these answers and have mentors just like ourselves, so we can like tell our stories to youth here in Mongolia. So they have this like same study abroad opportunities and have this amazing worldwide experience, right? So that's why we created this TomYo application, initially just to inspire youth in Mongolia to have access to world-class opportunities. And the TomYo, the name TomYo in Mongolian means formula. So it's kind of like hacking the formula to go and study abroad. As people who are learning through the digital platform, they get access they never had before, like even in the rural parts of Mongolia, a lot of the students are like, actually, they love it. They just like can't wait for the next content because, here in UB, we have 1.5 million and it's pretty crowded. We have all of the language centers. We have great like facilities and teaching institutions, but outside Ulaanbaatar, there's really nothing. It is pretty wild. Like outside of the city, we have still kind of like what traditionally like foreigners think as, we have a small like town city and then a few schools and few banks. And then like maybe we still like have the horses and herds, and then these people, they still have like 4G, like mobile, even when they're like riding horse and herding. So a lot of people outside of UB, like another 1.5 million people, what they do is they just don't have access to anything other than what's taught in the traditional school system. So through our technology, what they're accessing is kind of like 8 different languages and like all of these teaching institutions on our platform and teaching that content. And people before, they only been taught like English in school, but now they have access to like Japanese, Korean, and they're just like, this is amazing. I'm much better at Korean and I think I have talent for it, right? So that's those kind of like stories really encourage us like more than anything. And then now we're trying at the stage where like Mongolian market is pretty stabilized in terms of operation. We're trying to raise money to go global.
Oh, totally. But like, what you just described in terms of your impact, right, on the education system, that's what's so exceptional about this moment in time where you combine, everyone's got a phone. And if that phone's connected and you have resources such as TomYo, well, all of a sudden you have a whole new, like an exponential growth in the number of resources that are available for someone to learn. And you think about the economic development process, whether it be in urban or suburban or rural areas, well, you've just blown that out of the water now because all of a sudden now anybody can learn. It's an amazing process. But you mentioned it, like the Mongolian market is quite small. I think 3 million people across the entire country. The capital Ulaanbaatar, 1.5 million. So the numbers that you're quoting, you've got a huge chunk of that. But I imagine, does that start to make you think about where do you go next, or are you already thinking about where you go next?
The technology we built is accessible and applicable like anywhere globally, like especially in this COVID times, right? So the in-house technology team we have like 15 engineers. They have built this amazing like video streaming, multiple like conferencing solution, live streaming, like webinars, all of these amazing solutions within the applications. So we want to like apply this technology definitely to like Philippines and Sri Lanka, Southeast Asian markets that we think have like probably similar issues with the COVID and kind of like digital literacy and transition from traditional like schooling system into more like digital schooling, peer-to-peer learning systems. So that's what we are targeting. But I think like for like coming from like 3 million people to go into Malaysia, like 30 million people, that's a quite kind of like scary market to take on, but we're definitely excited.
We joked before we started filming that when people think about Mongolia, they think of people herding camels or horses, and yet you've got a team of developers. Is this, is Mongolia a little the world's secret in terms of where there's tech talent?
When I say I'm from Mongolia, I get the wildest like reactions from people. So
What do
that's
they
gonna be,
think?
oh, like, do you ride like horses to school? Like you have school, like the craziest things. So it's a lot of fun. Majority of our population is very young and very much like Generation Z, I would say. They're very hungry and like from the beginning, like they're very like native to digital technology. Like so I think in times like this, we are not so far behind. I would even say Silicon Valley and then the innovators of the world, right? So I think this digital kind of like uh, accessibility kind of like is placing us among back to the competition in the world stage. And uh, I would say the engineers and innovators we have is world class. I'm very proud of that. And a lot of people might like myself, who've been like working at the global tech companies, at the global consulting companies are back in Mongolia because they want to do more social impact and impact their community and bring it to the next class as well. So I think that's pretty inspiring to see the change immediately and kind of like how we are progressing from level 0 to level 10 in a very short period of time. And I think that's kind of like, well, it's been always kind of like this disadvantage for like developing country to say we build high-tech solution and say like try and compete with this developed countries. But right now, I think, yeah, if you like dig deeper into the technology and what's been built behind it, I think it's very competitive on all levels.
You mentioned you have great developers, but again, it's a small market. Is it easy to build a company there? Is it easy to gather the investors you need, the people, the attention you need? And mostly given, I think the rest of the world would think of Mongolia and Ulaanbaatar as a place for mining, maybe farming, not technology.
Yeah, no, I think that's a very good point. And recently, I would say in the past 5 years, there's been a lot more entrepreneurship and kind of like startup scene going on here in Mongolia. And we have the first fintech company from Mongolia raised at the global level. I think in Asia, I think the top 10 Series A investment recently. So we're definitely like some of us trying to get into that kind of like world-class level. And I hope TomYo will be also like trying that in the next year or two. We're still a small company. I mean, we've been in the business only for a year and couple months. So it's been like, like exciting for us to kind of see how much impact and how fast we can leverage and penetrate into the Mongolian market already. So I think we're definitely excited and kind of like just navigating the global scene.
Definitely. And now I wanted to touch on what you've just brought up in terms of you left, you went abroad, you worked abroad, you studied abroad. I think you've been in every continent based on your LinkedIn, but you chose to come back. When you left, did you think you would come back? Was it your goal to come back?
Yeah, I think definitely I always want to come back and do something like, I think growing up, we always like watch this, I don't know, HBO shows, Disney shows, and we imagine like, the Torontos and then the New Yorks of the world. We definitely want to just go there and like live in that moment. And once you do that, you're just like always miss back home. And you see the beauty in our country, you think there's so much potential that's left behind, that you want to bring it onto same kind of level in that world stage. And that's, I think, in a lot of developing countries, it's very doable, even if it's like maybe a little bit behind. I think that the impact you can make is it really overweights anything you can do in the city like Toronto or New York, because you can really see the change immediately.
One of the things that really sticks out for me in this conversation with Eja is her comment that in tech, it used to be a disadvantage to say you came from a developing economy. The world looked down on you. But today, all that matters is what you build, not where you build it. And if COVID has taught us anything, it's that once we let go of place, we can suddenly discover that the world's tech talent, let alone any type of talent, is distributed everywhere, even in places where horse racing and yurt camping are the most popular things to do on the weekend. Thanks as always for watching. Do me a favor and press the like button and subscribe, and I'll see you next time for more of Their World, Our Future.